Hi, everybody. Here I come. Here I come. Here I come. Here I come. I'm Maria Chen. I'm a graphic artist by training. Here I come. And it says, I am going to make it. I am going to make it. It's not easy after the energies that I got in here from three extremely energized people, and Michael, Bob, incredible, and Jessica. Thank you all very, very much. And I'm getting myself together and I say, I am going to make it. So we are, Michael and I, in a small village in Hungary, in a rural village in Hungary, not very far from Bob. And attending our garden. And because what I heard from Bob Carr, I would like to start to say to Bob that the energies he speak about, because it will take some long time before we see each other, and I don't want to wait until it because it's so important. When he says that you actually introduce yourself to the seed. Now, in here, I have to say our garden, which I will show, knows us. Because when my mother was at her last time of her life, Michael and I took her out to the garden to be there. We could take looking at her as we were cultivating. And at one point, we realized that she had something in her mouth. And I went and I said, Mama, give it to us. And she had a ping pong ball size earth in her mouth, very shiny, already chewed on. And I was very fortunate because she actually did not want to swallow it. And she gave it to me. And so it went back to the ground and it is in there knowing us from top to bottom. You know, and when afterwards we were concerned what will happen to her, and she had a stool for a whole week, rather representing what she ate the day before. And I said to Flavie, is it like blood? Or she said, no. And she became nicer after. You know, her face was shinier and everything was nicer. And we remembered the cure that you can get in France for beauty salon. You eat the clay and you are getting the package on the clay and you become nice. So that's what happened in our garden. And this magic saliva, what Bob is talking about, is another story which is about to be part of my presentation. So I have to say it in advance that in Seattle, Washington, there is a nice place for the Norwegian community. And they were fishermen and they had the smallest houses, but they were all owning their houses. And the family very much together because they never know if Papa will return from the sea. And the mothers, they had a dish called spit pot. Maybe you heard about it before. The spit pot meant that they soaked the grain overnight, and before they took it, they made a spit into it, knowingly using their basic instinct, because it started to get actually rendered for us to make it better digested. I don't know what Jessica will make out of it, if it is in the Portuguese or a pepperoni dish, you know, freshly made, but this worked. And all of the children, all of the people there were beautiful, rosy cheeks and healthy. So it's always good to remember that when we are mentioning the chewing in the macrobiotics, we are doing this very, very basic thing to making it more alkaline and more rendable for the body. And my mama, the same mama whom I mentioned before, when I went to elementary, very beginning, she had the tendency, she's grabbed me at the gate before I went, and she took out her apron, she made a spit into it, and then she rubbed my eye, cleaned it out for the day to come. And I remember until today a very familiar smell of it, and it made me actually calm to go to out of home and other things. So with that, I'm going to make it. And in beginning with my much more somber way of looking at things, I would like to introduce you to this garden. And with it, I show you the 4 seasons, the 4 seasons that are almost melting into each other now. We don't have the description of the springtime as it was, but Mother Nature still does the work. Here is the spring chicken and the spring. And then this is the summer with all of its beauty, with the dill pickle that we can make at the time, with the beginning of the summer with these alkaline strawberries, with the shisho that is grown not this year but 3 years ago, and beautiful vegetables all around. It is without chemicals. And the later part of the summer, the early autumn, was so much upward energy that you can see, Michael is not a short person, but it was hard to see the end of the sunflowers were going. So it was much less, of course, in the ground growing vegetables, potato, which we don't, but the sweet potato did not make it. And then comes the autumn, and this is the sweet potato that did not make it. I mean, you have much nicer in Israel. That was one and only. And okay. We have to make the condition ready for it because we don't have the sandy soil and we did not have enough of the rain. But I want to show you the mushroom in here at the middle. This is the last photograph that we are able to make, because in the village pasture, there will be no more cow grazing and there is no more mushroom. This was the last one. It was cultivated for like 0.5 meter tall grass. The machine cut it down and then it goes into the barn and they are feeding the cattle in Neso. There is no such thing as ferreting mushrooms that we were going around it and hope I find something once again. Okay, this is the story. And if you haven't seen chickpea as it is in a natural format, this in here is the chickpea before taking the actual seed out of it. And the sunflower is ready. So, and then we are at winter time, and this is a fig tree here. And we have to tell you that there is no winter as far as snow cover in Hungary. At the place in our village, this is a Japanese mugwort and has just a little bit of dust, nothing else. In my little village, we had from late November until early March, a snow cover that was 0.5 meter, 1 meter big, and gradually went into the soil, nourished it, and had enough for the plants without sprinkling on the top. And what Bob mentioned about the drought that he's seeing in the magic crystal ball, it is real. It is real. It is happening. And the fruit trees are still seeing the benefit of having down water, but the planting is very challenging because unless you catch it at the time, in good time and good season, you will not have it come out. So this is the 4 seasons, and Mother Nature, as we say, still does the job. We don't know how long, and Michael said, it is the child in me when I say, we don't know what the spring will bring because we don't ever know what the spring will bring. But we are always hoping for wonderful things to come and try to make Mother Earth, doing it a little bit easier than at the moment it can. We are living in this garden and together with our 3 dogs, varying number of cats, and we never know how many we have at one point, and these miniature chickens that we have. That's, yeah. And the tools that we have, they are exactly the same, but our ancestors had 100 years ago to make it so. And we are cooking what the garden provides, mostly, not everything, but what comes from the garden. And of course, the grains coming from the close vicinity of the neighborhood. That's what we are doing. I learned, because I never had a chance to say, I learned macrobiotic healing diet from Cornelia and Herman Ihara. and I am trying to interpret it ever since on a Yin-Yang matrix. And I am thankful for to make an opportunity for me to be here today, and all of the presenters at the same time. It is wonderful. Everything is just marvelous. And my presentation today is to invite all of us to see our lives, past, present, and future, into the framework of the 9 star. And as you will see, I am focusing solely on the number 2, the 7, and the 6, child, mother, child, and father, and their changing position throughout the cycles, which we called, of course, Michael and I called the neonate, the number 1, the 9, the ancestral, and the number 8, which is the main focus of our thinking, and the child's position that is completely changed and new in the incoming new cycle. I'm very, very happy, and I can somehow deal with it that Michael introduced the main cycles, and so I can take my life experience into the way how it is represented in the cycles and the changing numbers. So before I do that, I'm about to do a very unusual and I hope working method, which means that I introduce the conclusion first, because the promise that I am cooking for the number 8 cycle was, and the consideration was very, very hard, because I am a number 7 child myself, and I am, as Michael said, I am looking at these from the perspective of the child. So when I am introducing the history of my ancestors from A to Z and my life in the current cycle and the future, I am doing it from the perspective of the children. So to say that the conclusion was very, very hard, and that made me think that the best is to introduce the conclusion first, and then everything else will follow. And I do this with the asking all of us who is present in here to take our life similarly into the context of the 9 star and with it ourselves, now as a grown-up or before as a child, as our history was. So the conclusion number 1 is that the severity of the time to come does not allow the child to be pampered. This is very, very difficult to say, but this is how I see it at this time. And the number 2 is that the possibility of famine, and I am about to quote people who know the statistics, the possibility of famine is real, unless we act. And this is, once again, makes it wonderful, because we know that in the order of the universe, the bigger the front, the bigger the back. So the possibility of famine is real, and it is unless we act. But we know that there is a backside of it, is that the actual cure can be as big as the problem itself. As Michael said before, macrobiotics is not fatalist. We don't say that, no, get ready. Jessica, make the last of the presentation, because there will be no more humor in the number 8 cycle, because these things are real. But as I say, real if we don't act. And so the other consideration and the conclusion is that someone will knock at your door, and that someone will be the child, the number 7, and asking for food and asking for guidance. And that guidance has to come before the 8th cycle and in the 8th cycle from grown-ups, because we children, just like when we are elder, we need help. We need the pampering at the time when we are not able to take care of ourselves. But what we are taking with us is the one that we will actually let the children deal with the problems. And I am a little bit improvising in here because as I talk, it comes to my mind how Herman used to say, imagine two houses. One is built with good material, the other one is built with haphazard. And then you take a cover on the houses, exactly the same. Nobody can see the difference. But when the wind comes, one will stand and the other one will collapse. And this is something that I am focusing on when I say the someone who will knock at the door will need help and need food. And here comes the conclusion, the last one for me, is that when I considered it, the food that I am cooking is macrobiotic brown rice cream. And this brown rice cream is because it is nourishing, it is easy to absorb, and it is about to feed the child without ill effects and without further difficulties. Now, this means that you yourself will make the meal planning around it. Okay, it is not that you are eating macrobiotic brown rice cereal for the cream for the rest. But I said this because I am talking to the child and about the child and everybody else. So if we are making a cream, a brown rice cream, it is about to be working from the toddler toward the elderly for all of our benefit. And I will say when I got to the presentation to say that if a family has a chance to eat together, they will stay together. And in that, if you make this dish, it will be from A to Z for everybody. So I hope you don't mind that I came to this conclusion because there is a lot to say in between, and I will repeat it at the end of my talking. And so with this conclusion I presented, I would like to underline even more my deepest wish to show the child the beauty of Mother Nature and all of its inhabitants, because this was the way how I was dealing with the presentation of mine. This is, as Babkar used the word love. This is love, and it has to come from the family and from the community and for Mother Earth as such, reflecting back what we are giving to Mother Earth. So healing ourselves step by step. I had the picture of the little snail, okay, as an algae. Healing ourselves step by step. We are becoming what we ate yesterday without blaming that I did not eat the right stuff yesterday, but tomorrow is the promise that I am having the food that will make me being ready for the oncoming time, which will be, as I repeat, not pampering the child. So I take my meditation into the cycles. Here is the base cycle that Michael was talking about. And in every of these cycles, I am focusing on the number 2, 7, and 6, and the relation of them to the middle, the number 5, which is the empty middle that will actually help to give the substance to their existence in here. So I mentioned I am a number 7 myself. In here, we see the family, the child at the middle, and surrounded by the parents. We say, this is good as it is. This is supposed to be that way. So when I am going further, and I will show it now, I am with all the other diagrams. The number 1, the neonate, the number 9, the ancestral, and the number 8 is the instructive. And in each and every of them, you will see the 7, the 2, and the 6, and their position. And you will see with each and every of them how they are changing and what it will actually have an implication for their existence. And then you will see at the number 8 how all 3 members are now occupying the number occupying the place for the yang side of the cycle. That yang always means activity, movement, things they are happening much different in the number 8 cycle that they are actually doing in the previous cycles. And comparing to the number 5, you see how they are at the number 5 in the base diagram, all of them are on the inside. So I would not wonder why it happened that all of our teachers, macrobiotic teachers, they were focusing on yangizing us. And of course, they are my other aspect, because when we become more yin, then we're supposed to be eating very strangely in the nearby and at today's number 9 cycle as well. But these are the things that we are going to seeing each and every of these diagrams. And my goal is to make it as personal as I can, because I am not the expert on the overall of the 9-star key. And I tell you in here, because Bob was talking about the cow flock, that my existence from A to Z is from the cow chip to the microchip in a very, very minimum time that is given to human beings. So I cannot say expertise for anything in this very, very short time. But I try my best, and I take my family's, my ancestral and my life into these cycles. So what I am doing, and by showing, these will make a big implication for not only how we cook, but for what we grow and how we take care of our planet over the next 81 years to come and beyond. That's what it is. And so I was born into the tail end of the past number 1 cycle. And do not ask, is it mean difference if you are in the tail end or in the beginning of it? And the answer was yes. If you are born in the tail end, you are getting the last of the events that were represented in the cycle, obviously. This cycle is from 1874 for 1955, and we call it the neonate. And you can see in the diagram that the number 1, the number 1 find its place at the middle of the cycle. In the base diagram, which is here, the number 1 is for mystery. The meaning of number 1 is mystery and questions. So in here, in the neonate, number 1 is at the middle, the empty middle, representing questions and mysteries. Questions and mysteries. And the number 7 child now is with the number 5 prior to the existence of the number child. And you know from the diagram, the base diagram, that the number 5 is an empty middle. And in this neonate period, the child does not have instruction, doesn't have, it is the dough, what would be, it is empty for the child. And the mother is not next to, but now a bit further, and the father similarly further from it. So instead of the number 2, mother is occupying the original place, at the place where the number 7 is at the moment. In my own life, this manifested, I'm jumping a little bit, my own life, it manifested that the mother is at the father's place. When my grandmother was doing all the work in the house and outside the fields for my grandfather, because he was in the war, he was at the time, so he was not able to do it. My ancestors cultivated the land from time, I don't even know how long, 200 years or something. Big enough, it was big enough to support one family using the force of the cow or the horse to plow the fields. We used petroleum lamp for lighting the house because my grandmother disallowed the new technology to come into the house until she was among us. So it was a petroleum lamp, and Michael and I call this the neonate cycle, not only because we were born into the neonate, but because electricity was born into this cycle for us and changed the energy of the life around forever. So it was very different. We see in this, no, this is not that. So the first, we see, first of all, I would like to show tendencies to make a navigation into this. In this cycle, we see immense forces. That's the first tendency. We see immense forces that were released with the beginning of the First World War that resulted in a complete dislocation of European population, which, as I mentioned, dislocated my grandfather from his village he was born into the war front of Italy. From Hungary, from a rural village, he was in Italy. And thankfully, he returned safe in 1916, but the second tendency is the absolute violence. The absolute violence in the 20th century that encompassed 2 world wars, the Holocaust with crimes against humanity, and the Bolshevik Revolution, which was spreading into Middle and Eastern Europe all the way after 1945. One of my uncles did not return from the Second War, and he is resting unknown in the Donetsk space and in Ukraine. My father's life was actually, my father's life was, and our life was actually continuing because of him took his place, and in the village, my father was able to stay and take care of aging parents. So I have, because I told that I am a visual artist, visual person, I have this image in here from Millet, a French painter. And I find he was doing the painting a little bit earlier than the cycle neonate, but the image represents for me 100% of the way and the outlook of my ancestors.
Maria, we have a question here. Hi.
Yes.
Someone is asking if you can please tell more about the cooking, explaining more about specifically how to prepare our food for the coming cycle.
Well, this is a question that I was anticipating to happen. I was anticipating to happen, and someone, because I am continuing in here with images, and I am showing pictures of food, but the title may mislead somebody. My goal in the number 8 cycle is not to tell anybody how to stir the pot, but what it is that we are getting ready to cook, because as I said, someone will knock at the door. And what are we going to cook? And in my presentation, again, I can show, because I am not cooking in here at the kitchen showing. I have 10 minutes. You are absolutely right that I should make myself a little bit, oh my God. So here, maybe we go through the images as they are, and I come back to as much as I can to say because the civility, what I said, not allow us to have menu in here. I say, choose what you like. This is macrobiotic. Eat as you like. This is your ways. And I say, we are eating in season, and we are doing it organically grown. We are doing it very well chewed and all, but it is not the aim of my presentation to actually make a dish. But if you wish, I can go to the very end of my presentation because I have time, and I will show you a few of those things, but with my pumpkin, which is my love, how to cook for the number 8 cycle. What does it mean to cook for the number 8 cycle? So I will ask my presenter, the picture presenter, let us go, because in here, but I show to the person who asked the question, I'm showing in here brown rice cream with vegetables, grown in season, don't forget, always grown in season. In here, I have similarly a vegetable soup with oatmeal dumplings. I show some spread. This is a black bean soup, love it, with cilantro. And I learned it from a Cubano culture in Miami, Florida. Wonderful. And then I will ask, this is onion that is at the moment said in macrobiotics, eat a lot of purple onion because it is good for the immune system. Okay. And I ask if it's possible for my presenter to go to the very end of the presentation and show the pumpkins. This is it. Okay. This is a miracle of one pumpkin. This is the same thing what we have with the 1,000 grain. One pumpkin seed in a garden that was mismanaged before, and we are learning and taking care of it, and now it takes care of us. And then out of this one pumpkin seed comes a little bit of pumpkin, and then it goes and grows in the garden, and it becomes a pumpkin, and then we are taking it, and this is the one that we are cooking today, and then it is cooked. Can we cook it now? It is cooked in the oven in winter. This is all the sunshine that all season long was in the garden. And then here they go, dishes. It's a pumpkin spread with leek, wonderful, with a little bit of miso. This is pumpkins cubes with a little bit of tofu spread, wonderful. And then this is pumpkin carrot soup with ginger. In winter, you love it. And then I say, here it is. This is what my presentation is all about. This is the brown rice cream, and you can do it anyways. This is a little bit less creamy, but for an infant, you make it even more creamier. And this one is alkalizing us and makes us ready to face the difficulties. You will not have any benefit of my presentation if I start to talk to you about many other dishes that we are doing macrobiotically speaking. And I have presenters in Dinner channel, all mine macrobiotic cooks, and this is where we end. Here. This is today's end of the presentation. My graphic of the end of the presentation, that we have macrobiotic cooks. And if you are interested after my very partial presentation to know more about macrobiotic cooking, there will be a plenty to have what is appealing to you. Okay, but the principle is, but I want to go back to, and I think I have that much time. Maybe I will find that part, and I will spare you from taking the
stop there. We have a question. We have a question about the oat dumpling.
Yes.
Can you just
very straightforward. You cook the oat bran with less water than otherwise you would do if you are doing a oat bran porridge, right? A little bit more hard, and then you leave it for next day when you are doing the soup with the dumpling, and then either with your spoon or in macrobiotic cookers, now they are using the ice cream cone, ice cream scooper. You make beautiful, beautiful shapes, and then nice and home, you take it into your, and you can do it with millet. You can do it with other kind of grains, like if you are making barley and then you make it a little bit ground, and then you just take it into the soup. You don't have to do any extra work. My cooking is, if I have a chance to show, is extremely simple. And I say this for all, make it simple, make it simple. That's part of the presentation. So you don't have to do 10 dish that you have to take aside and okay, I wash the dish afterwards, but you can make one pot meal, like what in here, the yesterday's bran is today's dumpling. You can have a bran for the child, maybe with a little bit of rice milk in the evening or in the morning, and the rest is going to be a dumpling. Okay. So what else would you like to know about the cooking for the 8? The cooking
someone's asking more about that dumpling. What other flavors or seasonings do you add to it?
In this dumpling, there is no seasoning except a pinch of salt, because the soup, the liquid, is having all the ingredients, is the taste. And what I find about macrobiotic is that, except for using wonderful fresh herbs and spices, the extreme spicing came with the sauce to take care of the unwanted smell of the meat in a human experience. So when you have a beautiful grain prepared the beautiful way, like I would like to tell you about millet. Some people say, I can't deal with it, it's bitter and blah, blah, blah. Then you did not wash the grain properly. You did not wash the millet by using your hand and rub until everything comes off with it, because that's where the sorghum mold is on it and it makes it bitter. So when you prepare organic food fresh, as fresh as it possible, it has the wonderful taste of heaven. It doesn't have. One of my friends, my very good friend, when I made a millet and I made it into a dish that is can be cut into pieces, and I take a little bit of nori wrapper around it. I learned it from French meadows when we were from France. It is not only beautiful, but it is so tasty. It has, I don't know how many tastes in it, so you don't need to know. But if you like, you see, the margarine is the taste for happiness. Thank you. So if you want to have a little extra happiness in your dish, take a pinch of margarine.
But in the healing diet.
But if we talk about healing diet, we do not use much of the spice, that kind. Then the happiness comes when you heal yourself. So that's why I am going back again and again that brown rice cream is the fundamental goodie that we can actually build on. Everything else we can build on, and it is available all the time. So if a knock on the door happens, you are never surprised. You are always having it. And I'm going now to the end of my presentation. In the number 8 cycle, the number 8 represents the spiritual. That is what is that we have to regain our spiritual compass. Because if I had my presentation, I was even at the place of Picasso. That was the second image that came. And it doesn't work well by showing the pumpkins, of course, but this rabbit in here, my rabbit, because, well, let's not make it. This is the rabbit that is represented. And I wanted to tell you about the mental health crisis of the children of our time. Not Benji. Benji is very fortunate. Benji is eating macrobiotics. But overall, the Surgeon General of the United States made a overall view of the situation for the children today in the United States. And the somber quote that I was planning to tell you about tells us that the children are in a real life crisis, because if mentality doesn't allow you, what I say in my presentation, that if you have a good working autonomic nervous system, then you are like a healthy bird. I say to the child, this one, a healthy bird doesn't ask in the morning, oh, say, gosh, I have to chirp again. It just does it. And when we have mental crisis for the children all over the world, you see, we have to do our cooking to help that autonomic nervous system work properly. And in Gina's channel, in the presentation, we have a friend who said it from A to Z, and look at it up and you see, what do we have to do? And number one thing is to feed ourselves properly. Okay, so again, I am going a little bit far away from the spice, but it is important for know that what I am talking about is not only the children who are fortunate and know macrobiotic a little bit because the parents were funny enough to be macro. When our children were growing up and our good pediatrician said to them, I mean, your parents are really funny if they think that the child can grow up without ear infection, So those children who have the benefit of eating properly, they are not about to be shifted by the wind, by the incoming difficulty at the number 8. So in here, I have another rabbit, 48. I don't have time. Here we are. These are the children of today. Okay? These are children of today. And it is hard, very hard. And at the time when a teenager is growing up, growing into becoming a parent, the family, and they cannot express themselves. I have a little difficulty sometimes to express myself because I am a child, but the children cannot express their feelings because the feelings are all mixed up with all the chemicalized food that they are inhaling day after day after day. Okay, so that needs to be cleared out globally. And again, I just have to jump because I don't have time to say what was the presentation in a Nobel Prize taking from the executive director of the food distribution on Earth. See, so he said that every night, and it doesn't make you really go to sleep very well. Every night, 811 million people go to bed hungry, and 200 and some million are on the edge of starvation. And he said that starvation, what I quoted at the beginning, will come unless we act. Unless we act. So these are the conditions that the children have to face. And macrobiotic children are being part of it. They will be not isolated into a community of macrobiotics at the end of the Eden, and then eating their, chewing their food, and then everybody else will do whatever they can. And these tendencies are already with us. So, I very nicely I wrote down in here that it doesn't happen like the ball in Times Square at New Year's Day that you eat it and you just go and then everything else happens next day. It is already showing the tendencies. Michael mentioned Greta, that and the movement that the youth is about to go by, saying that we have to wake up. I mean, the house is burning in here. Not for the grown-ups if they are sleeping, but for the new generation, they have to deal with this problem. And it is not over exaggerated, it is the situation. Okay? So this is mine, and bon appetit to everything that macrobiotic in here shows. And we are very, very happy to have all of you in this channel. I think you just have the help when somebody is knocking at the door. The help is there. The help is there, and has to be with the over-covering spiritual guidance that we get. Michael mentioned Herman's second teacher. I still go back to that point for a moment. Frankl said that we have to honor our individuality in ourselves and in each and every of us, each and every of our friends and neighbors. And when I said that behind this face mask, the children have to be honored for their individuality and be helped to regain and to grow into their individual grown-up time in this coming number 8 cycle. Okay, 2 together with the macrobiotic food and the spiritual guidance that they can get, they can face the difficulties. And that's my presentation. You are absolutely right. If I were to tell you my life story, which I said at the end of my meditation, seeing what the Surgeon General said about the statistic that is in the United States today for the children, that my experience, my friends, is merely a teardrop of salty water compared to the tsunami what the children have to face. Okay, and they have to get ready for it. Okay.
Thank you, Maria, for bringing us back to simplicity amongst the confusion. You did a masterful job. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you for bearing with my pronunciation, because my children said that my Willy Winky was not good enough English, but they helped me to do better, so it is better now. Okay.
It's wonderful.
Okay. Thank you, Gina. Thank you.
Thank you.